Howdy. Howdy. All right, it's just me and then the drinks, right? Just me standing between now and the drinks. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here and thank you in advance. There's my Twitter handle if you want to call me out for anything I say here on the stage in public and have your own conversations, deliberation about things I said. Drag your friends who are not here into the conversation. My email address if you want to send me hate mail. I'm not going to give you a reason to hate me, I promise. And then that little image on the right-hand side is a book that I wrote 5 years ago about the mobile commerce revolution, and with that, I just will admit, I'm a recovering mobile strategist. I say recovering because I'm partly responsibility, at least I accept responsibility for the data issues we have today. It was mobile, really more than social media, more than email that caused this to happen. What are we talking about? We're talking about digital transformation. And the important thing to understand about digital transformation, it is as much something that happens to you as something that you take on as an initiative. We have things that we have to talk about right this second. That is the overwhelming number of bots and fake news and old news that is revived and brought to the surface and tanking your stock prices if you work for a publicly traded company. You know what I'm talking about. About 70% of all the traffic that's on the internet right now and content that's generated is machine generated, not people generated. That's only going to become more so. We are reading all the time in TechCrunch and the Wall Street Digits and all the other places that you consume innovation or technology content about new things that are made possible. News today, Apple is going to acquire an autonomous driving platform. Again, what is Apple going to do? What are they going to do in the future? And how do we respond to that? How do we react to that? How does it change our lives? And ultimately, there's this thing that's happening if you're in communications, PR, or if you're in marketing, customer care. You're paying 3 and 4 times for the same data in your organizations. And that has become a challenge, and we're seeing those disciplines, those operations start to converge. Some current trends to understand or to really just set the stage for you here. This is from the Edison Research NPR Smart Audio Report, which you can Google that. They're going to have a webinar, Edison Research and NPR, I think next week or the week after, to unveil the latest report. This is from the most recent one, before that one. 21%, so 1 in 5 Americans own a smart speaker in their home. That is about 98% of those are either Google Home or Amazon Echo Dots, Alexa. Raise your hand if you have one of these devices in your home. Your digital marketers, your early adopters, of course you do. Well, this is what it's looked like and how fast that is happening. 78% more of these devices are in people's homes at the end of last year. 2 companies, right? 2 companies that can hear everything that we say in our house. If that doesn't scare the shit out of you, these 2 companies also own these 2 companies. Google on the left, Amazon on the right, and they are the ones that we're putting on our front doors. So not only can they hear everything said on the inside of our house, they see everything coming through the front door, right? Are you awake? And most marketers, when they hear this and they see these stats, they're like, well, that's no big deal. I've been paying 20% out the door to Facebook and Google and Amazon for the past 10 years to get to my customers. But that's not okay, I don't think. Because we're starting to understand what people are doing when they have that kind of power. They're being revealed. They're being caught. Just this week, we heard, well, just last week, right? Google was indicted. And then we heard at the beginning of this week that Facebook is now fully under the scrutiny of the Federal Trade Commission. And indictments are going to come. You heard my business partner Tracy this morning talking about regulations that are coming up in 9 more than 9 or 10 states right now about customer data privacy, all because of things these companies have done or not done, right? And again, here I am, the recovering mobile strategist, and I'm the one who screamed 10 years ago when I first started doing mobile strategy that this was going to change everything. I said to everybody then, what's fascinating about this is I can check my email at lunch. How many of you remember that time? Some of you, I'll be fair to you, you may have been in high school. But others in this room, remember that first BlackBerry? Remember how awesome the feeling was that you could sit there and have that 5th martini at lunch? You know who I'm talking to in the room. But the important message here is that for over 5 years, 50% of the market has had a supercomputer in their pocket with them at all times. And you're lying if you say you don't take it to the bathroom with you, because you do. This thing goes everywhere with you. And that, to me, for a long time, I have seen as a one-to-one, individual, peer-to-peer connection that you have with your customers. And do you see the story unfolding here? You've had for 5 years a peer-to-peer connection with your customers, with your audience, yet you are still investing in rented land, other people's mediums, other people's data. And the best way to really illustrate this, I would think, I have thought for years now, is to look at these two individuals. Raise your hand if you don't know who these two guys are. That's okay if you don't. Okay, and those that you didn't raise you're going to play along with me. Those of you who know who they are. So, on your left, Cliff Clavin is the postal worker. We don't call them postmen anymore. He is a postal worker. He knows a little bit about everything, which in fact is what, if you ever knew a postal worker, they know everything because they read your mail. They know the magazines you subscribe to. They know who you get bills from, who you get checks from. They know if you have paid your taxes or if you're on a payment plan to pay your taxes. Think about it. It's fascinating. And that is what mobile has caused for us, because when you go to a bar now, there is no more trivia, and there are hardly any arguments anymore because we've got IMDb, Wikipedia, and Google in our pocket. We can prove and disprove anything on the spot. Now, of course, we have not so true news that gets in the way of this, and that's caused some other things to happen. This is not a talk about that. On your right, though, when this gentleman walks in the bar, everybody in the bar says, Lord. The epitome of personalization. We know where he sits. We know that he's pissed off at his wife and that his boss has had him do things he didn't want to do and that he wants a beer. Disposition is framed, and we know what he's drinking. It's all ready for him, right? Isn't that what Amazon does for us? Right to our front doors? And greet us when we log in and tell us because we bought one of those, we'll buy one of those. That's what we're talking about here. So that's the last time you'll see cheers today. So with the ability to have that peer-to-peer connection, most of us are still sending out emails that at best say hello and a first name. Some of you in the room are probably using marketing automation systems that allow you to do A/B testing, maybe to send out 3 or 4 different kinds of emails based on what the first 15 minutes of a subject line tested to 20 people told you. But it's not personalization. It is not true one-to-one conversational marketing. And Tracy shared this slide, so I won't spend much time on it. This is the only thing you'll see common between her deck and mine, but we have been chasing down the customer using all these different tools. Scott Brinker's MarTech 5000, which last year became the MarTech 5000 with 6,000 logos on it, this year became the MarTech 5000 with 7,000 logos on it. That's created problems as well. And here's what that looks like. The average Global 2000 company, and I would say even mid-market companies, even small companies. You don't have to have much more than a couple million in annual revenue before from a digital standpoint, you're using 3 or 4 different tools to manage the customer experience, right? Well, the average Global 2000 company is using somewhere, on average, 150 different tools to manage the customer experience. And then they have many of you in the room as agencies who are using a different set of tools to manage the customer experience and marketing and communications and customer care. And what happens there is Cliff has filled out a form on your website or your client's website if you're an agency. And the Cliffster follows you on Twitter. And Cliff B. Smith is what it says on his credit card number. And he's got other credit cards that he's used with you before. Google tells you that Clifford is crawling around your website. Bingo, our CRM, has a Clifford in it. But when he downloaded his mobile app and he filled out who he was at that point, he said his name was Cliff. And what most companies fail to understand is that this person is just Cliff. It's the same person. But because you have different departments and agencies on the outside of the building, and you may be the agency, and you may have clients who've got direct mail operations that you never get to touch. And they all have data, and they all have data on the same people, and they're treating what they do as maybe the only touch point, and that has created problems. So what we have to do is talk about really quick what this has meant, because part of the customer data privacy issue is also what is causing us to struggle and have to invest or have the continuous churn in marketing. Fewer repeat purchases. The customers we have are actually the customers that we want to take care of the most, because if we do that, they'll buy from us again. They'll tell their friends, right? That's what the name of the game is. Rather than acquisition, marketing is more about retention, more than ever. The most valuable customers have churned to other competitors based on convenience, based on price, based on brand, multiple reasons, but it's because also we engaged in transactional marketing rather than in personalized customer experiences that they never felt like they were a customer or loved. And ultimately that's lost revenue, and if you're a marketer, if you haven't yet, the day is coming when marketers are going to be measured on a weekly basis based on how they've affected sales. I've heard several people and talked to several people today that is the number by which they are measured. Weekly sales, monthly sales, quarterly sales for sure, and that is what we're having to deal with, is that it's lost revenue at the end of the day based on what these more convenient, more real-time, direct-to-customer, some of them competitors, are doing to take business from us. So the remit for everybody all day long has always been, let's create a consistent brand or consistent customer experience at every single touch point. We should know who a customer is, no matter they come through the website, they come through email, they send us a text message, they're using the mobile app, or they walk in the front door. We should know who they are. We should at least act like we know who they are, right? That's what we've all tried to do. So, a quick talk on data governance. To solve this problem, you, over the course of the next 18 months, are going to be in a position, or you're going to be asked to be in a position, to connect every single bit of customer data you have, to find it wherever it may be in your organizations. Find it and bring it all together. And then leverage what's available from an artificial intelligence or machine learning standpoint to analyze that high cardinality, that large volume of data in a way that you've never been able to before, and ultimately make better decisions about what you're doing with content, what you're doing with your businesses. Start with the digital first customer. And if you're at this conference, my guess is that you are at least in some part responsible for digital marketing or the digital customer experience. The first order of business today, or maybe Monday for some of you, is going to be talking about how we need to go and find out who our customers are, because we've got audiences that, again, that we engage on rented land, social networks, Google, ad networks. They're out there. Let's get people to click through and subscribe to newsletters. Let's get them to get a deal, a promotion. Let's try to sell something to them. But as we do, let's make sure we get all the information that we can on them. Their name, their email address, their phone number, maybe their date of birth. But find out who your customers are, not just simply what you're looking at with digital marketing analytics, which is media analysis. Let's understand the people behind all of that. And then Mark Childs mentioned it this morning on the panel at the top of the day. You're going to put all that data in one place in a customer data platform. How many of you in the room have a CDP installed right now, or if you're an agency, your clients have one? Please raise your hand high. A few. This is not a CRM we're talking about, because a CRM is only connected maybe to the mobile app, maybe to social, certainly to email. We're talking about everything. Everything that has customer data associated with it or in it. That customer data all has to be put in a customer data platform. Adobe has launched one. Oracle's going to launch theirs. They've pushed off their launch date 2 quarters now, but in August they'll launch theirs. Salesforce is coming to market with a solution for what we call data unification, or entity resolution is another word that you'll hear people use. Entity resolution, because we've got information about the same person in all these different places, and we just don't know that it's one person. Well, with that, you're also going to be quickly talking, if you're an agency, you're going to be talking to the folks that own the DSPs, the DMPs, because they've been waiting for this moment. Programmatic media, the one that you struggle to build attribution models with today. Programmatic media will sing once you put all that data in one place. And I left out one important part, is once that data is all in this data lake, if you will, in this customer data platform, the best ones on the market will employ machine learning, where over a period of 30 to 60 days, the machine pulls all the records together to create that one cliff we saw a few slides back, that one customer record. You can understand where that goes now with programmatic media. There are ads that we can put in front of Cliff that only Cliff will see. That's possible today. That's the way media networks are built. And some of these programmatic networks will also have the luxury of having data from the likes of CBS or Axiom or other folks. And they'll also be able to enrich what you have in that CDP. And we will all have one of these on our website. This is when you go to apple.com and you want to look at your data. Amazon does something similar. Anybody been to Amazon and looked at your audio files from Alexa? You can go do that. You can delete all of them too. This is what Apple's looks like, and this is what Tim Cook has been quarterbacking for about 6 months right now, is your ability to come in and understand what data they have on you, get a copy of it. You can correct it. You can temporarily pause things. Facebook has done the same thing, right? You can pause your account on Facebook and kind of disappear from everybody. I've talked to a few people who have done that, and they seem to be in better health for it. But you can also delete everything you've got. This is what GDPR was all about. It's what the Scandinavians call digital suicide. This is what GDPR was all about, is that you should be able to call a company and not just unsubscribe in a MailChimp way, but you could say, hey, delete everything you know about me right now. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to be transparent with our customers, with the people we have, whose data we have, right? So, if it sounds like I'm being critical, if I'm even saying I told you so or anything like that. I promise I'm not, because I don't think the opportunity right now is to be totally reactive and scared and running from customer data privacy. That process I just went through, or I told you is possible about data unification, there's much more to it, mind you. We had a couple of talks ago about schemas. The big part of bringing all that data into one place is you're going to strip all the schemas away from your data as well in that CDP. The only way the machine's going to be able to make sense and run predictive modeling and analysis on it is if it's very clean, schema-free. But once that happens, once you've done that, here's what life can look like. The first thing is you will have, and Mark said this earlier about what he does, I think, with treasure data, and I think he said something to the effect of the things he found out about his customers once he did that. The view you're going to have on their behavior, on their associations, in terms of who they hang out with, where they go, things like that. Sounds creepy, but you're actually in the act of preserving and keeping private their data as you do this. You learn so much about them, and you can get into segmentation in a way that you never had before. And when I'm talking about segmentation, I'm not talking about those Saturday morning exercises where we do customer journey mapping and we map out and illustrate who our 6 to 10 personas are. This is talking about the tens of thousands, if not just thousands, of archetypes that exist within the audiences that you serve. That's what becomes possible. Many CDPs on the market will do that work for you. What does that mean? Number one, personalization, and where I'm going with this, if you've already been able to tell, this one-to-one, this peer-to-peer individualization, true personalization. That's where we're going. And we see brands already starting to do this. Do you think that they just are looking at somebody else's data to find out what the most popular names are when they start to put names on Coca-Cola bottles and cans? No, they know who's drinking Coca-Cola. They know who they are from a first name. They're on a first name basis with them. And the simplest thing I've already mentioned here is you're taking original data and you're deduping it. It's just like if you've ever moved from one cell phone to another and in the phone store, they dedupe things for you. And it doesn't ever seem to work when they tell you they're going to dedupe it, right? But bottom line is, when you do this, you're immediately going to save up to 20%, if not greater, on your media spend alone. Because the disparate departments and disparate agencies that have been sharing some data back and forth with you, the brand, or the brand with the agency, at this point, now we've got a clean data set, we have no duplicates, and we're not sending out, we're not placing ads, we're not doing things twice to the same customer. I complain about a certain airline that I love the airline, but they send me the same promos to all 3 or 4 of the email addresses that I've ever used to do anything with them, although I only use one email address to book my flights. Don't know if what they're doing right, what they're not doing right, but it's just one of those things. Remove the duplicates and truly move into this situation where it's not just segmentation, but you know who these individual folks are, and you can start to build incredible models of behavior, incredible targeting lists, if you want to call that, and even better, lookalike audiences to go find new customers that are supremely accurate. Most DMPs and DSPs, which are pretty much the same thing these days, most of them are going to ask you to dial up the view, right? To tell us what you're looking for demographically, ethnographically, behaviorally, and obviously, if you've gone through this data unification and analysis exercise, you're going to be able to do that by having such individual clarity. Number 2, customer empathy. How many of you, as digital marketers, try the traditional or the built channel, right? You go to the front desk and you let them know, or you call the front desk and you let them know that your water's cold. And then, even if they tell you they're going to fix it, you go to Twitter and you say something out there, right? The challenge here is that our traditional customer care is not what it used to be. It's not a call center in Southern Illinois now that is answering the phone from an 800 number that's on the side of a cup or a French fry container. It shouldn't be. And what I'm referring to is a company that we all know of that's got 6 million people using a mobile app and another 25 million that have played a certain sweepstakes game over the last 10 years. And they've got a bunch of folks that are also dialing a 1-800 number whenever something's wrong with what came in their order. And think about the steps and the friction that happens in that situation when the person who orders with their mobile app 5 burgers and 7 cups of coffee per month. I'm sure there's a per week individual out there that does that, but who is also the same person who goes to Twitter and complains. Think about contextually how that would change if you can bridge those two things, just those two things, the social graph for this person, and have a log, a customer record of all the other times that this person has called several times. And guess what? They're buying $300 worth of stuff from us a month. It changes the game in terms of what you know about your customer, and that's important because where we're going with machine learning, to a point that Devin made this morning on the panel, is that machines are going to start handling part of the customer experience for us. I'm probably a little bit more aggressive about how copywriters will be displaced by machines than he is, but not by much. The idea of machine learning is that once you have this data and you are enriching in real time those data records, is that over time, the machine will go through processes of learning and building models of that data. And the most important thing about that related to customer care is that you're going to start turning over the reins of the first 15 minutes of a customer issue to the machines. Many of us have started to do that with chatbots on our home pages, but most of those chatbots, what have we done? We've taken FAQs and just repeated those FAQs to someone who comes to the site and then put content in front of them based on their answers. The true opportunity here with the cognitive ability of chatbots in the long run is that if they're connected to the CDP, they'll know everything relevant about the customer the minute they come through the website, the mobile app, or even when they call on the phone. Because when we call on the phone, we'll be able to identify by their phone number who they are. I had a true story. 3 weeks ago, I was in Boston, and I like to use Silvercar. Anybody know about Silvercar? It's an Audi-owned company. Their motto used to be rental car, car rental that doesn't suck. But there's no paperwork, there's no counter. You just land, you text them, say you're here, they pick you up at the airport, they take you out, you pick out your phone, you scan a QR code on an Audi A4 or a Q5, are the two vehicles that they have. Every single one of them silver, and you drive. This is not a Silvercar plug by any means, but what happened is every one of these cars, everywhere that I've rented a Silvercar, has a toll tag in the windshield. How many of you have rented a car and got on a tollway before and then realized it when the red lights went off when you went through the easy tag, you Houstonites? You know what I'm talking about. We have the same thing in Austin these days, right? But the bottom line is I did just that. I mowed right through some tag stations and I called Silvercar. And I had a 10-minute conversation with somebody in customer care about what my problem was. Never told them my name, never told them anything. At the end of the conversation said, "Thank you, Mr. Hayden. We will take care of this." That's a human handling that, and that's kind of what I was talking about from a call center standpoint before, but chatbots, same thing. Chatbots right now are just as frustrating as that offshored call center that we call in today that has a different accent. They don't understand our situation. They don't understand that we're in the state of Texas and it's 100 degrees right now, and my AC's not working in my car. That's going to change, and it will be robots that take over for a great number of people in the customer care role. Number 4, user-generated content. That peer-to-peer connection that you have with folks, don't forget, that's not just a phone. That is an HD 4K production studio in their pocket. And you want them to take a picture, to capture a video, to answer a few questions, to rate, to review, to do something else. Peer-to-peer, do that with them. And as you do that, have them check a box to give you the rights to use that rich media, the video, the photo that they share of your product, of your nachos, of your boots, or whatever it is that you got from them. And as you do that, you'll be able to leverage user-generated content everywhere. The important thing about this is that when those of you, especially in consumer brands, who are running hashtag campaigns on Instagram, your audiences are using the hashtags and they're sharing these beautiful 4K photos of what you asked them to tag the photo with, right? And you as a brand cannot repurpose that content unless you go back and get them to double opt in. Not just because they use their hashtag, could you repost that? Not just because they use your hashtag, can you somehow get that photo and go put it on your website or drop it in an email or anything like that. But here, I'm talking about the act of leveraging not just the photos, the videos, but all the data that's in them as well, because most everybody, especially after your phone has just done an operating system update, every photo you take and every video you share with anybody is encoded with location information, time of day, all of that. And that's rich media, but it's also rich insight that you'll be able to leverage in terms of personalizing the content experience and also gaining some type of efficiency that you hadn't before when you were paying an agency or a photographer to go out and capture all those images. True story, what I'm talking about is a conversation that I had with a different airline several years ago, just having them realize that they had 50,000 people who work for them every day around the world that all have that HD production studio in their pocket. And this was after they told me they spent somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 million on stock photography on their website every 18 months. And I said, whoa, just send a message out through the scheduling system and say, hey, while you're in Paris today, snap a few photos of these things for me. Your customers are internal just as much as they're external, and being able to take that content, associate it with a specific customer or specific types of customers now that you're building better segmentation is going to allow you to be able to republish and be able to play at the same speed from a content standpoint as your customers. Which brings me to number 5, which is kind of a Swiss Army knife of a number 5 here, is that once you've done this and you are in real time updating customer information, which is the end goal here. In many CDPs right now, you'll have to do a bit of data migration or import or export, and that'll have to be scheduled. For some companies I know right now, they're doing that every night in the middle of the night. Some companies I know are doing this once a week. I know other brands that are doing it just once. But once you move at the speed of the customer, once you are enriching these customer records from social, from the mobile app, from what happened in marketing automation, what other things that you can get from as a signal from the CRM, all of a sudden marketing isn't just about media and messaging, but it's about product development. It's not only about marketing and communications being to operate on time, aligned with the engineering product development side of the house. It's about also marketing and comms influencing the product development side of the house. This becomes extremely important as we become more digital and IoT takes over. We have smart speakers, we have smart watches, and if any of you have bought a car in the last 6 years, you're driving a smart car. It's connected. It is a connected vehicle. All of these are personal devices. All of these, therefore, have customer data swimming through them. And as they do, it's not just the engineers and the product development team who need to see just what people are doing with the watch. It's what the marketers need to see. It's also what the marketers may have from a data or analytical view that the engineers don't have once you've gone through this data unification process. And the future readiness, because that was a future readiness story that I just told you. The future readiness is all around us right now. It's what I call shiny object syndrome. It's where we were with mobile apps and QR codes 8, 9 years ago, right? We're there again with augmented reality and virtual reality. And if you want that to be a really contextually immersive, personalized experience, step one, get your data in order. But it's a blessing once you do it, because you're going to be able to check a box in terms of privacy and being a good steward of said data, but you're also going to be able to do things that are just a little more feasible and certainly more contextually experiential and relevant for your customers and your would-be prospective customers. And as important to understand, and we're in Houston, there's a few of you in the petrochemical or oil and gas world that are familiar with blockchain, helping with supply chain data integrity, helping with logistics. Well, this is where we're going, probably in the neighborhood, I'm going to guess, of 5 to 7 years, where ultimately you're going to want to know who your customers are, because most of your new customers are not going to tell you who they are. They're going to be able to transfer value with you, authorized by the distributed ledger that is blockchain. This is not a blockchain talk. This is not a crypto, this is not a Bitcoin statement. This is a blockchain distributed ledger statement. The beautiful thing about where blockchain is coming in right now in terms of customer data privacy is, once you get all that data in one place for customers, you can use certain blockchain solutions to go encrypt all of your customer data. So if anybody ever breaches you, that 14-year-old Eastern European boy who's been trying for 2 years to get in and get all the credit card numbers that you've got, once they get in there, they won't be able to unencrypt, if I said that right, to decipher. No magic decoder ring will work. They will not be able to use the data once they get it, because they'll only have pieces of it. So if you get excited about some of the things you read about blockchain making happen, step one, you got to get your data structured and clean. And this horrible low resolution photograph of the Lone Ranger. The thing I'm excited about, and you go back to that image of Apple's customer portal, this is what Mr. Cook is doing more than anything. What he's doing is he's putting on a white hat. And he's saying, go ahead, take Google, take Facebook, take them to court. Do what you're going to do. We're Apple. We're going to be transparent. Those PR folks in the room know what I'm talking about. The opportunity you have once you've gone through this process not only allows you to be compliant with regulations, customer data privacy, but it also puts you in a position to where you can make some noise about it. Just flat out tell people, you want to delete your data that we have, we got a place for you to come, look at it, and delete it. That's a vulnerability that companies will have to take on, and I think it's going to be this situation where people are going to say, hey, those are good guys, those are good people. That is my subjective. I worked for 14 months for the world's largest PR firm. That's about the only thing I would say when it comes to the comms side of this. So, for The 92% of you who did not raise your hand when I asked if you had a CDP, you're going to go shopping for one. And as you do, here's your checklist to start with. Once you start to go out there and read a little bit, one place to go is the CDP Institute. A guy named David Rabb started that about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. It is a fantastic place. Sign up for the emails. They do come every day, so I think you can get them weekly. But he's covering everything that's happening in the CDP space. And and you'll appreciate what David Rabb does, what the CDP Institute does to constitute what a true blue all-in-one customer data platform is, because that's what I'm talking about. This isn't some of these companies that have 3 different modules that they'll scotch tape together to be able to unify data or integrate systems with API calls. This is one system where all the data goes. Established API connection portfolio. You're going to want to have a conversation right off the bat with somebody to say, what else can you plug into? For 2 reasons. You want to be able to leverage that against what you know is your MarTech stack, but also what you think may be on your roadmap in terms of what they can handle. High cardinality. High cardinality is a really fancy engineering way of saying just a big volume of data. The kind that humans cannot gen up in Excel spreadsheets and make sense of. We're talking about the biggest data sets you can imagine, and I won't name names, but some of the biggest CRM vendors right now, they can't check this box. They can handle what you have from an email list standpoint and from maybe what is happening with some media network reporting and maybe the mobile app and maybe social, but they can't look at everything else. So ask people the number of records that you can have and get IT involved to understand what that number needs to look like for you. Also, stay attracted to customer data platform vendors that are talking the IoT game, the device game. Because what I said earlier, we do some work with Shell, and last year we did not do this, but last year they launched any GM drivers in the room that have a Shell app installed on their car? Couple? Well, so when you pull in the gas station now, you don't have to pull out your wallet. The car just gives you an opportunity to pair with the pump. Well, connected car, connected vehicle, that's here today. It's already here. It's only going to grow in terms of that device, not to mention the phone, the watch, the smart speaker, the smart oven, refrigerator, and sock warmer. All of these things will be connected to the internet. Machine learning and predictive modeling. You don't need just a data warehouse for all your data to go and structure your data. You need somebody who's actually built software that lives inside there, that helps with the segmentation, helps with the modeling, and ask them to show you. Give them the burden of proof that they have to show you what it is they can model with maybe a sample of your data or somebody else's, or some that they can use from a demonstration standpoint. Depending on the industry you're in, you may be faced with the question of whether or not you need a cloud solution or an on-premise solution. If you're in healthcare, if you're in financial services, more than likely some semblance of customer data governance will have to take place on-site, behind a firewall, and have a bunch of other things that need to happen with it. I think that's going to change. I think we're going to see more of hybrid cloud. We're going to see, especially now because IoT means a lot of data is going to be stored at what people call the edge. There's data that's on your car that really doesn't get beamed up while you're driving, but it might when you pull in your garage and it pairs with your Wi-Fi system at home. There's that opportunity to understand what, from a regulatory standpoint, you may need to have there, or from a usage standpoint, what makes more sense. And then lastly, this is something that Mark and I talked about over breakfast, is just the dilemma that we're in right now is the guys that are best with the data these days, unfortunately, are the guys that really don't know much or don't have much empathy with the marketer. But with guys like Adobe and Oracle, Salesforce, others that are coming to market with customer data platform solutions, I have high hopes that it's going to raise the bar for everybody, that they'll make them very marketer friendly. So this is usually one that you'll challenge with internal IT or engineering folk, because they'll tell you, we got a data lake. They won't say it just like that, but they might say it that way. We have a data lake already. We've already got all of our machine data going into it, and we're going to be okay. We're already doing this data unification you talk of. That's true, but for you marketers to do all the things that I've already mentioned, you need to understand, you need to require that the vendors you're looking at also have some semblance of a empathetic and user-friendly dashboard for you to use, to query, to build your lists, to build your models, and like. A non-digital statement is without the capital needs to invest in a customer data platform, and anybody in the room who's a small business and thinks I'm only talking about enterprises, find me at the reception or find me before you leave the building, and I'll give you the name of a company, at least I know of, that's doing entity resolution data unification for small business as well. But if you're a digital marketer, raise your hand. Hi, please. It's the last thing I'm going to ask you to do today. And keep your hand raised if you run direct mail as well. And a few hands go up. That's just the classic, since the earth cooled thing that has to happen in a non-technological capacity right now, is just start having a cup of coffee or go to lunch with anybody who, the customer care folks, go down to their office, ask them to see the call logs. That's data, that's information. And without digitizing it and putting it in a CDP, you can make better decisions. You can build some empathy and understanding the customer experience through a different lens. That's very important. At the end of the day, what we're talking about here is transformation that you control, that you lead. Ultimately, having knowledge that you don't have today. Clear, holistic knowledge of who your customers are. And with that, sharing internally with disparate departments, building chemistry, if you will, with agencies, with service vendors, with other folks that are also touching the same customers, sharing data amongst each other. And as you do that, you'll change your focus from internally managing media and messaging, but to an external, truly customer-centric, empathetic view. That's the opportunity. Thank you. And I think I have some time to answer wherever the foam microphone is, answer some questions. Someone? Do it? It's been a long 2 days, I know.
I'm not very knowledgeable, or actually it's the first time I've even heard about a CDP period.
Right.
Is a CDP like a replacement for your other, like say like your website database, or is this a kind of an additional thing that you throw everything into to then analyze?
It's a great question. No, I mean, I think the answer to the question is undoubtedly no. Because again, what you're doing, you're talking about behavior change here at the end of the day, right? As marketers, we're going to change the way we do business here. We're going to spend less, and we're going to have a lift in sales because people are going to love us because we have empathy with them, right? We're customizing the experience. The beautiful thing about it is that once you've put all that data in a CDP, all the current systems you were using will be able to have, from an API standpoint, a connection with that. So the signals, the ingress and egress of signal there means that what you're using with marketing automation, what you're using for social management, whatever it might be, keep on using it. It's going to run better. It's going to run leaner. And it's going to give you maybe a separate dashboard in the near term to understand a little bit better what it is you need to know before you go run a campaign or get into some type of content production or publishing, right? But you shouldn't have anybody telling you that you need to replace what you have there. That includes CRMs. You shouldn't have to throw out anything that you have there. Keep your operations the way they are in the near term and just get ready for things to sing and run a little more fluid. Mark, did you find that to be the case?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is additive. I mean, ours, I was actually just looking at our treasure data database. We have over 2.3 billion records in it. So the amount of information is, like you said, it's not human readable. It's not something
Right.
that you can do directly. However, I think we probably have 40 or 50 different data sets going into it so that we can query across. One of the biggest issues that you have without a data lake or a CDP or something of that nature is really trying to cross-associate different audience types. You know, I was just talking at the break, and one of the things we try to do is associate conference attendees with subscribers, or how that matches up,
Right.
and then what the behaviors are from offline to online transition, and that was part of the multi-touch attribution.
Right.
So for us, yeah, it doesn't replace anything. It really is additive, but it's a beneficial additive feature. It's just trying to understand all the components that are within it.
Thank you. And I pick on Mark just because we met each other through Treasure Data, but he's been a bit of a standard in terms of what they do, because you're not doing anything with programmatic media at current, or very low. So there's one of those blessings, right? Once you're ready to go do that, once you're ready to expand that, it's a windfall opportunity in terms of accuracy and what you're going to make happen. Come on. No other questions? You guys are thirsty, aren't you? Okay. Well, thank you, Aaron, for having me. Thank you, everybody, for the patience, and see you at the bar.